If you're collecting Social Security right now, you've already heard the good news. The cost of living raise coming in 2027 could be the biggest one in years. Some of the early estimates put it as high as 4.7%. And if you're like most people, the second you heard that, you did a little math in your head. A bigger check. Finally, after years of falling behind, a little breathing room. I have to stop you right there, because most of that raise is never going to reach your bank account. It gets taken, quietly, automatically, before you ever see a single dollar of it, by something most folks never connect to their Social Security at all. And nobody making the big announcement in October is going to spell this out for you, so I will. Stay with me to the end, because the last thing I'll walk you through is the one move that protects your real raise. The people who skip it are the ones who lose the most. Let me say up front what this is and what it isn't. This isn't doom and gloom, and it isn't one of those videos screaming that the checks are about to stop. Your raise is real. It's coming. The problem is the gap. The gap between the big headline number everybody celebrates and the much smaller number that actually lands in your account. And that gap hits two kinds of people the hardest. The ones living on a smaller check, who feel every single dollar, and the ones with a little more income, who get quietly punished for it. Both groups assume this doesn't apply to them. Both are wrong. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an accountant, so take this as a plain English map, not personal advice. But by the end, you'll know your real number instead of the fake one, and exactly what to do about it. So let's start with why the raise is climbing at all. The cost of living adjustment, they call it the COLA, isn't a gift. It isn't Congress being generous. It's tied to inflation, specifically to a measure called the CPI-W, which tracks what working folks actually pay for everyday things. Gas, groceries, rent. Over the last year, that number's been running at about 4.4%. A big piece of that is energy. Trouble overseas pushed oil and gas prices up, and inflation climbed to its highest point in roughly 3 years. So your raise is big because your costs got big. Read that one more time, slowly. They are not handing you extra money. They are trying to drag you back up to even after you already fell behind. Now here's where it gets interesting, and where most people stop paying attention right when they shouldn't. Two of the big forecasters have already put out numbers. One well-known group that watches this all year long is calling for about 3.8%. Another respected analyst raised her estimate back in June to as high as 4.7%. The official figure won't land until October. But let's take the cautious end and do the real math, the way the government never shows it to you. Say your benefit sits right around the average, about $2,026 a month. A 3.8% raise sounds like real money. On paper, your check climbs to roughly $2,103. That's about $77 more a month. $77. You can already see where it goes. The electric bill, the prescription copay, a tank of gas. Here's the catch. You're probably never going to see all 77, because the very same season your raise gets announced, another number moves too, and almost nobody connects the two. It's your Medicare Part B premium. That's the money pulled straight out of your Social Security check every month to cover your doctor visits. You don't write a check for it, you never touch the cash. It's gone before the deposit ever hits your account, and that premium has been climbing fast. Back in 2025, the standard Part B premium was $185 a month. This year, it jumped to $202.90. That's almost $18 a month more. Gone. Just like that. And the trustees who run Medicare have already projected the next step. They expect the 2027 premium to rise again, to right around $209.50. So walk through it with me. Your raise hands you about $77. Then Medicare reaches back in and takes 6 or 7 of it through the higher premium. And that's before we get to the rest. There's a respected research center at Boston College that ran the full numbers on this, and they landed exactly where I'm landing with you. Higher Medicare premiums eat up more than 25% of the average person's COLA. More than a quarter of your raise, gone, before you ever feel it. And I'll tell you, every January, like clockwork, my comments fill up with the same line. My raise was supposed to be a certain amount, but my check barely moved. What happened? This is what happened. Every single time. Let me make this personal, because the average hides what's really going on. Your check isn't the average, yours is your own. If you're living on a smaller benefit, say $1,500 a month, your 3.8% raise is about $57. But the Medicare premium increase is a flat dollar amount, close to the same for almost everyone. So that fixed bite takes a much bigger chunk out of your smaller raise. The less you have, the more of your raise disappears, proportionally. That isn't an accident. That's just how the math falls. And it falls hardest on the folks who can least afford it. Now flip it around. Say you've got a bit more, a pension, some savings, maybe a part-time job so your income runs higher. You'd think you're in the clear. You're actually the second target. Because once your income crosses certain lines, Medicare stops charging you the standard premium and starts adding a surcharge on top. They call it IRMAA. Most folks have never heard that word until the day a letter shows up saying their premium just doubled. I've watched this happen to people the year after they sold a house, or took one big withdrawal from a retirement account, or lost a spouse and their tax filing status changed. Their income spiked for a single year, and Medicare punished them for it 2 years later because it looks back at an old tax return. So the raise everybody's celebrating, for these folks it can vanish completely. And then some. And before you assume there's a safety net catching all of this, let me kill that hope honestly. There is a rule called hold harmless. In a normal year, it stops your Medicare premium increase from being bigger than your dollar raise, so your check can't actually go backward. Sounds great. Here's the trap. In a big goal a year like this one, that protection barely does anything, because your raise is large enough that the whole premium hike sails right through. And it doesn't protect everyone anyway. Not new enrollees, not the higher income folks paying that surcharge. So the one shield people count on is weakest in exactly the year you'd want it most. Let me ask you something right here, while it's fresh in your mind. Have you ever actually checked your net deposit after a raise, the real number that hit your account, against the big number they announced on the news? Yes or no? Tell me in the comments. I've got a strong hunch how most of you are going to answer, and honestly, that hunch is the whole reason I sat down to make this. Here's what genuinely bothers me about all of this. None of it is hidden in a way that's illegal. It's hidden in plain sight. The raise gets a press conference. The premium increase gets a quiet notice in the mail that most people glance at and toss in a drawer. One number is built to make you feel good. The other is built to be forgotten. And the gap between those two numbers is your money. There's a second quiet bite too, and this one really surprises people. When your check goes up, more of your Social Security can become taxable. The income lines where your benefits start getting taxed haven't moved in decades. They were set back in the 80s and 90s and never adjusted for inflation, not once. For a single person, your benefits can start getting taxed once your total income passes about $25,000. For a couple, it's about $32,000. Those numbers have stood still for 40 years, while every check around them kept rising. So every raise nudges you a little closer to that line, or a little further past it. The raise giveth. The tax code quietly taketh a little back. Nobody mentions that at the announcement either. So by now you might be thinking, all right, that's depressing. What can I even do about any of it? Good. That's the right question, because here's the part that actually matters. The part I promised you at the very start. You can't stop the Medicare premium from going up, but you can make sure you're not overpaying it. And a lot of people are overpaying, by hundreds of dollars a month, with no idea it's happening. Start here. If your income dropped recently, you retired, you cut your hours, you lost a spouse, you sold a business, and Medicare is still charging you that high surcharge based on a tax return from 2 years ago, there is a form that fixes it. It's called the SSA-44. It tells Social Security, my income changed, recalculate my premium based on what's true now, not what was true 2 years back. People who file it correctly can knock their premium all the way down to the standard amount. Sometimes that's several $100s a month, back where it belongs. Most folks have never heard of this form. You ask for it by name. Call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213 and tell them you want to file an SSA-44 for a life-changing event. Next one. If money is tight, there are programs that will pay your Part B premium for you. The whole thing. That $200+ a month back in your pocket. They're called the Medicare Savings Programs. There's one known as QMB and a couple of others, all run through your state. The income limits are higher than most people assume, and a huge number of folks who qualify never apply because nobody ever told them these programs exist. If a program pays your premium, then the Medicare bite on your raise disappears completely. Your whole COLA stays yours. Call your state health insurance assistance program. They help you with this for free, no sales pitch, and ask whether you qualify. And think about what that's worth stretched over time. Knock even $150 a month off a premium you should never have been paying, and that's $1,800 a year. Over a 20-year retirement, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars you keep in your own pocket, instead of quietly handing it over and never noticing. This isn't small money. It just hides in a small monthly line. And one more. When that COLA letter and your new Medicare notice both show up, don't just look at the big raise number and smile. Look at the net. Find the line that shows what's actually getting deposited. That's your real raise. If the net climbed far less than you expected, that's your signal that one of the things we just talked about is hitting you, and that there may be money to recover. Let me bring this all the way back down to earth. The raise is coming, and it's real. But that headline number is the magician's hand waving in the air, so you don't watch the other one. Your real raise is the number that lands in your account after Medicare, after the surcharge, after the tax creep. For a lot of people, that's barely half of what they were promised. And the only folks who keep the full amount are the ones who knew where to look and what to ask for. They're not luckier than you, they just refuse to let it happen quietly. So before you do anything else, here's what I actually want you to do. When your numbers come out in October, check the net deposit, not the headline. 2. If your income dropped, file the SSA-44 and get your premium recalculated. 3. If money is tight, call about a Medicare Savings Program and let them cover that premium for you. Any one of those can be worth more than the raise itself. Now do me a favor. You know someone over 65 who's going to see that big raise number in October and assume every penny is theirs. Send them this. 2 minutes of warning could save them hundreds of dollars they'd never have known they lost. And if this made the math clearer for you, take a second to subscribe. I sit with these government notices so you don't have to, and I'll break the next one down for you the very same way. One last thing, and I mean this. When your raise actually lands, come back and tell me. How much of it survived after Medicare took its cut? Drop your real net number in the comments. I read every one, and your number might be the exact wake-up call somebody else needs to hear. Your raise is real. Just make sure you're the one who keeps it.